All right, as always, I'll start the session by sweating a lot, and then I'll stop by halfway through the session. I'm sorry you guys have to look at me like this. I should stop working out in the mornings, but it's okay. That's fine. I'm Indian. I'm allowed to sweat a lot. That's like part of our thing. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much. We have a lot of people here, a lot of new people. So this shows that people care about regulations. We thought not very many people actually cared about regulations, but apparently it's a big thing. So today we're just going to talk about what things are we seeing on the horizon that could affect crypto and how they could affect crypto. But as always, before I go off on my rant, we are going to go around the room. Please say your name within 15 seconds. And have you thought about any regulations at all? Hi, my name is Sim. I think about regulations a lot. My girlfriend tells me to stop thinking about regulations. So it's a problem.
Hey everybody, I'm Jason, and I think about regulations a lot too. Yeah, I mean, with the way the American government is taxing everything, yeah, and now Argentina, so it just looks like it's just going to escalate from there.
My name is Chance. I think about regulations a fair bit, and I try to protect my money as much as I can.
And particularly which regulations, if you thought about some that are concerning?
What's up, everybody? My name is Gabriel. I have not thought that much about regulations, but I likely will soon.
Hi, my name is Brady, and I'm a regulationaholic, and I'm happy to get the support around regulations from all of you, so this 12-step program will hopefully be very powerful for all of us. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Jonna, and I have not thought about regulations much at all until the last couple of weeks that y'all been posting it in the chat, so.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Not much, but mainly tax regulations. So yeah, interested to hear more.
Hi, I'm Serena. Being a US citizen can be quite troublesome with regulations, and I've had troubles with it, but managed to find a way to get a piece of the pie around the place, a lot of places.
Hi, my name is Pierre, and regulations I never really cared about, but let's see what we can learn today.
Hi, I'm Jane. Yeah, I find them really annoying.
Hi, I'm Nick. No.
Hi, I'm Lisa. No, but I would love to learn more, hear more.
Hi, my name is Vlad, and I haven't thought about regulation that much. So far, so good, but it's good to learn about them for sure.
Hey, I'm Tony. I haven't thought of them, but I think because they don't affect me personally for now, but they will definitely be affecting me more. I guess for now, on a personal level, it's more for the US citizens and maybe Canada who are more affected on a personal level.
Hi, my name is William. Yeah, I think about regulations. I think it's like the biggest threat to the crypto world, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to affect the whole sector.
Hi, my name is Nadia. I would like to know a little bit more about common regulations of stable coins. Yeah, it would be interesting.
Hi, my name is Leona. I was part of the policymaker itself, so of course I think about it.
Hi, I'm Finn. I mean, regulations are gonna affect the space big time, and so I think you have to consider it.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Dan. I don't really know much about regulations, but I think about it a little bit. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Adam. I started learning a little bit about regulations, and I've heard about it, but I don't think about it on the daily.
Hey, my name is Orden, and when you said it was about regulations, I didn't want to come. So I tried not to think about it, but then I realized I need to think about it, so I'm here.
Hi, my name is Sabina. I feel it's good to know about regulations.
Hi, my name is Oleg. I really want to know about regulations.
Hi, I'm Umnia. I'm very new, so I was like taking it a step by step and just trying to understand what crypto is. So didn't think of regulations. The only part of regulations I thought of is tax. So I'm super happy to learn more about this stuff today. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Julia, and it's like an amazing opportunity to come to know.
And we have a couple of newcomers. If you guys would like to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine. I'm just interested in coming here, knowing everyone in the crypto community in Bali, and also understand more about regulations.
Thank you. And
Hey, I'm Jyoti. Also interested in networking with crypto people in Bali. Just got here, and yeah, get to know how the regulation goes. Especially, I think for stable coins, it's going to be interesting pretty soon to see how things go. Thank you.
Would anybody like some water before we get started? Perfect. Okay. Regulations suck. I agree with your philosophy, because they tend to be one-sided, and they tend to give benefit to the people who make the regulations. And we're not the ones who make the regulations. The ultra wealthy are the ones who make the regulations, and they own the regulators, and they basically run the whole world. Hopefully that's not a newsflash. This is the first time we've ever had an industry where we got there first. Every time every other industry was built, the corporations got there first, because they laid the groundwork and had the capital to be able to develop these things. Crypto is built on top of an existing network, which is the internet. So the marginal cost of us doing crypto is zero. You just got to have an internet and a phone, pretty much the stuff that we already have. And we don't have we're like regulatory rebels. We don't care. We're happy to put our money into stuff that's risky ahead of time. Whereas institutions really care about regulations, because they can't move, sovereign wealth funds money into this market unless regulations come up. So they suck for us. They're really good for this space to grow. They're actually the thing that's necessary to take this space from where it is now, this wild, wild west that we've had, to a place where it becomes the new internet and it takes over the entire world and it becomes the de facto way of doing things, right? So let's just back up a little bit and look at the regulatory landscape today, right? You're all citizens of a country. Your country's regulations apply to you. If you're a resident within a country, that country's regulations apply to you. Your bank has its own regulations that apply to you. Your work has its own regulations that apply to you. If you have stocks, the stockbroker's regulations apply to you. And then the jurisdiction that the stocks are in, their regulations apply to you. If you have real estate, the country's real estate regulations apply to you. So we're living in this regulatory world where it's a patchwork of regulations that don't allow very much mobility. If you want to sell your stocks and buy some real estate in Indonesia, if you want to sell your stocks in the US and buy some real estate in Indonesia, it's going to take you a long period of time to go through, discussing with your broker, what do I sell? Okay, I sell it. Now I got to figure out my tax implications. My accountant's going to figure out my tax implications. Now I need to put the money into the bank. I need to make sure the bank is then able to move it here. Then here I need to be able to find who owns this villa. Then I need to vet them. Then I need to get lawyers. Then I have to go to notaries. Then I have to, just to get to the point that I can even think about buying this place. And then you have to come up with how to transfer the money in a way so that you don't get scammed. It goes into an escrow account. Then you buy the place, make sure the deeds are all perfect. Then you have to talk to the Banjar. You got Banjar regulations here, right? The Banjar is going to be like, we want to get paid off. So, this world that we've been living in, it's this patchwork of regulations that makes it hell for us to participate in it, right? As far as financial regulations, most of us can't even invest in a lot of things because we're not accredited investors. We're not allowed to participate in the prosperity generation event. The past 100 years have been one of the greatest prosperity generation events ever in history. The single greatest prosperity generation event in history. It was called the stock market or the financial markets. And you're not allowed to participate in most of them because regulators say you're too dumb to invest for yourself, right? You have to be accredited, and you have to somehow have made hundreds of thousands of dollars or have millions of dollars of assets. Even if you just bought a house and it just went up, apparently now you're smart enough to invest in these assets which can make you wealthy. And that's created this divide between people, let's say, honestly, in the West and the rest. Because in the West, if you are of a certain wealth status, you're allowed to participate in this wealth generation event, while even the people in the West who are not at that status are not allowed to participate. And then like Indonesia, India, forget about it, right? That whole world is now being flipped on its head because anybody in the middle of Indonesia can pick up a phone, buy crypto, participate in the new wealth generation event, and actually generate more wealth in a shorter period of time than has ever existed before. That's why we're all sitting here. I'm sorry to say that world is coming to an end. We've had 10 years of that, and it's been completely open, completely wild. You know, print as many stable coins as you want, print and make as many random coins as you want, create dog-faced coins and become millionaires from these dog-faced coins, right? That world, actually, we'll talk about the meme coins, but those coins pumping right now should concern the f out of you, okay? Party in the house, okay. That should concern you, regulatorily speaking, because that is one of the vehicles that I see them using to later on come back and say, see, you guys are too dumb to invest because you invested in dog coins. You lost a lot of money in dog coins. And you invested in, what is that show, Squid Game coin. And they stole all your money. See, you're too stupid. So therefore, let us accredit you. Let us control the entry and exit to the crypto world. And that's kind of what's already going on. So you probably haven't noticed, but you've already gone through the first steps of regulations within crypto. When you signed up for an exchange, you had to give your ID, you have to enter banking details and a residence address. That puts you through the first set of regulations we're going to talk about, which is called KYC, Know Your Customer, right? The way that the financial world likes to operate is they like to make sure whoever is participating in the system has their identity fully revealed and vetted to make sure that they're not criminals. So when you signed up, they ran a check on you called a KYC check. And the KYC check made sure that you're not a criminal. They also ran something called an AML check. It's an anti-money laundering check. There's a global database that keeps track of people laundering money. In reality, it doesn't even keep track of the people who really launder all the money in the world, which are like banks and banksters and wealthy people, because you know they're allowed to do whatever they want. It's people trying to move money around that looks like money laundering. You got put through those checks, so you're already in the system. If you think like they don't affect me, you're already in the system. Unless you've been buying it from an OTC guy thinking I'm going to stay outside of the regulations, I got news for you. That's actually the worst way to do it, because now that wealth is not on their radar. As soon as you take whatever amount you bought from an OTC guy and you turn it into some significant wealth, and then you bring it back and go, hey, I have $1 million. They're going to be like, where did the million come from? And you're like, well, I bought it in crypto. Well, we didn't see you buy any crypto. Where did you buy that crypto? I bought it off of a guy. So that's money laundering-ish. So if you're planning on getting rich, don't follow that route. It's not going to work out too well. You're going to hit some roadblocks along the way. Trust me, I work with people who follow that route, and now they have too much wealth, then they have to hide. They literally can't show it to their country, because if they did, I mean, to be honest, they're Russians, and Russia just would be like, no, that's too much money. We're just going to take it from you, right? But that's a real fact of life. So first of all, you've gone through that route. You've done the KYC and the AML, and that's what makes crypto safe, technically, because what it does is it brings crypto under the purview of the financial system. And that's why we've had crypto get this regulatory kind of, I don't want to say clarity, but regulatory loophole. You know, like, you ever thought about, if I would have told you 15 years ago, somebody's going to come up with a money that's a global money, nobody can control it, it's better than the dollar, it's limited, and they're going to release it and you're going to get to buy it. You would have been like, how quickly do they murder the guy who created it? Right? And they actually did. So many people have tried to invent digital money, but they just couldn't. They tried it, and then they ended up either in prison or they ended up suiciding themselves, because people do that to themselves these days. But that's when you try to mess with the power of the dollar, that's what was happening to people. But all of a sudden, magically, something gets released, somebody buys a pizza with it, and then it turns into the single greatest wealth generation event in history. And then all of a sudden, coins come out where they're printing dollars. They're actually saying we're making dollars. We're just printing dollars out of thin air. Oh no, sorry, we're printing dollars that are backed by dollars, they said. And they allowed that to happen. And then a ton of coins come out, which are we're all seeing them as money, and they're all allowed to exist. Now just think about that. In the paradigm of the way the world works, do you think that would be allowed unless it was by design? It is by design, because we're going through a much bigger shift in the global landscape that happens every 100 years. And those of you who've heard me speak before, I'm sorry you have to listen to this again. But there is a 100-year cycle of humanity it's called the Seasons of Humanity. It's in the book, The Fourth Turning. Now we're calling it the Fourth Industrial Revolution. But the idea is every 100 years we have to revamp the system. About 100 years ago, we came up with a system where all the money in the world was tied to the dollar. The value of every currency was tied to the dollar, and the value of the dollar was tied to gold. And that was supposed to be a great system. It was called the Bretton Woods system. And it was fantastic. It actually created all the wealth that we have around us. But that system was based on the US printing the money according to how much gold they had. 1971, they got rid of that and said, we're just going to print the money without the gold. And all the value of every single currency is going to be tied to this system. Now that system's coming to an end, because they literally can't print enough money to keep this Ponzi scheme going. And that's why the world is shut down the way that it is, because we're going through a transitionary phase where a new system is going to come out. And crypto, right on the eve of that old system collapsing in 2008, the beginning of the collapse, crypto gets released, gets given regulatory walkthrough, pass-through, let's call it. And now it's gone to the point of implementation, where we've adopted it, we've started to bring it as part of us, and we think it's going to be like the last 10 years. We're all going to become millionaires tomorrow. And now they're saying, no, sorry, this isn't for you to get rich. That was just a beta test to let the techies come in and make sure this thing gets adopted. But now we're going to bring in regulations which are going to block you in some ways from being able to participate. Because remember, when you make money, you make somebody's money. The money doesn't just come into existence. When you make a dollar, that dollar came from somebody, partially. Now there's dynamics going on with Tether and other things where they're printing dollars and pumping it in. But the point is, now the real wealth in the world, the companies, the sovereign wealth funds, the retirement funds, they're coming to crypto. And before they come to crypto, they're going to put up a wall of regulations to make sure, first of all, crypto gets completely controlled. And then they're going to make it really difficult for us to take pieces of the wealth that they're bringing. Because they know we're sitting there with buckets, like ready, because we bought all these coins. We're like, we're not selling. And they're like, we want those. And we're like, we're not selling until you pay me for it. So they're like, oh, okay. Regulations. You want to own that stuff? Regulations. Are you still going to own it? Okay, well, random taxes and all this stuff that we're going to talk about. So that is the reason why regulations are so concerning for us, because we're at the forefront of this technology. We're the early adopters, but they're going to try to make our life difficult. So how does that work? And this is by no means all the regulations. This is some of the ones that I'm looking at that are concerning. The most concerning thing for me right now, which a few people brought up, is stablecoins. It's stablecoins. Because you're telling me a company started by scammers who actually scammed many, many people before and set up in an overseas structure is printing US dollars that were supposed to be backed by dollars, but it turns out they're not backing them by dollars. They have 3% dollars and 97% magical financial products. There's something called commercial paper. Commercial paper could be debt from companies. It could be pretty much any weird financial product you come up with. But most of the time, it tends to be debt from companies. Now, Tether has what, 67 billion or 70 billion or something? Last I checked, it was in the 70-ish range. $1 billion of dollars that they've printed. When they went to go check how many dollars they have, they just sent one pie chart that said 3% dollars and 97% hui, right? And we've been using those dollars to buy crypto the whole time. Now, you can take $70 billion and you can make a $70 billion purchase, and then that guy makes a $70 billion purchase, and that person makes a $70 billion purchase, and you can make a velocity of the money to create trillions of dollars of transactions with that. About 60% of transactions in crypto are created with this coin called US dollar Tether that's supposed to be backed by dollars, but it's backed by debt. Then we go out, you know, people have gone out and asked, like, anybody gives $70 billion of debt to a company? I mean, that's not a small amount. They would be the 5th largest bank in the world. And all the main financial people were like, no, we've never seen $70 billion of debt move, at least not through these systems, not through the visible systems. Again, this is now being posited, but the only likely place that can provide $70 billion of debt is China. Chinese companies, if you haven't heard, are not having a good day with their debt. Okay? They're actually defaulting on their debt. They're going to default on their debt. They literally don't even have enough assets to cover 2/3 of their debt, let alone the whole debt. So what does that mean? The coin that we're using to create 60% of the transactions in crypto, which has lawsuits against it that they've paid multiple times for not being honest, is backed by debt from China, but from companies which can't be paid back, mathematically speaking. So that's one of the things that they've left in there, so that later on they can be like, see, you guys are too stupid. You guys are buying these worthless dollars from worthless companies that were not regulated. Therefore, one, we're going to make it illegal. And this is coming. At some point within the next 4 years, this is going to come home and really hit us hard. Because they're going to say, Tether was not legal. It's not backed by anything. It's now made illegal because they're not allowed to print dollars. There's only one entity that's allowed to print dollars, and that's the US government, and anybody who they authorize to print dollars. When that happens, get ready for crypto to take a massive tumble, which is part of the game. If you've been here for anything longer than, I mean, if you've been here for the last year, you know we take 50% tumbles and it's a no problem. If you've been here since 2017, you know how the game goes. 70 to 99% corrections are part of the game. If you've been here since 2013, you know that 70 to 99% tumbles are part of the game, but even if you just held through it with the right coins, it's still generational wealth. But with the wrong coins, you lose absolutely everything, and they don't come back. That's the game that you're playing. Let's not mix words here. So regulatorily speaking, one of the most concerning things for me is Tether. That they've regulatorily allowed it, they've kind of just hit it on the side, because they're, in my understanding, they're waiting to use it as a pin to drop crypto. Because if I'm institutions and I want to bring hundreds of trillions of dollars to an asset class, I'm not going to let you guys pump it and then I'm going to buy it at the top. I'm going to have things that I use to just completely crush the market, scare the shit out of everybody that, hey, this thing's going to zero again. Guess what? It was based on fake coins, illegal coins, which Binance, KuCoin, Bybit, and a bunch of the major exchanges that we use out there, they rely, FTX, rely on the liquidity of this one stable coin to function. So if the day that coin gets made illegal, or they decide that, hey, guess what? It's not backed by anything, get out of it, and everybody rushes to the door to try to sell it, it's in their own regulations for Tether that says, we don't have to give you back anything. We don't have to give you the dollars. We don't have to give you anything, actually. We can just decide to be like, sorry, my bad, you know? So when that happens, people are going to rush to get out of Tether. That's going to cause a lot of turmoil within crypto. But is that bad? No, I look at it as good. Because one, I don't hold Tether. I use it transitorily to do things when I need to do it. But secondly, when that happens, on the other side are the bags of money from institutions, right? So insulate yourself from that and expect it. Expect that when that happens, you already knew that this was going to happen. And if at that point the market corrects 50, 70, 90%, guess what? You're getting a 90% discount on all the good coins. Think about it like that. If you're sitting in the good coins and they drop 90%, it's okay. Amazon dropped 98% in the 2000 crash, in the dot-com bubble, and then it became the biggest company in the world. This is part of investing. You either hedge yourself from it and actually exit the markets at the right time or ahead of time. If you're not one of those people, just don't panic in that moment, okay? This is gonna happen 100% because they're printing US dollars and you're not allowed to print US dollars. Okay, so BUSD is well backed. It's extremely well backed. It's one of the best backed coins out there. Yeah, when it comes to actual dollars backing it.
So would the crash of like USDT affect any of these other like financials?
Positively. Yeah. UST, USDC, BUSD. First of all, USDC is the chosen one. It's made by the banksters. It's created by them for them, by a public company in the US. And it is now being chosen as the one that they're going to use for MasterCard and for everything. So as far as the stablecoin, USDC is the chosen one. It already has regulatory clarity, down to the point that they're now suing it to give it regulatory clarity. Okay? BUSD will be affected positively because people will rush to it and actually probably wipe out the liquidity for BUSD so that they'll have to print more and to actually make the system function. But there will be a turmoil period because what I'm saying is the moment that happens, guess what your exchanges are going to do? Technical difficulties. Standard protocol. Everybody wants to get their tethers out. Technical difficulties. You guys are asking for too much money. Every exchange, all will have technical difficulties because they won't be ready to wipe out that much liquidity. And if anything, they'll go into technical difficulties, and by the time they come back online, Tether will no longer be tradable on those exchanges. Again, I don't know what's going to happen, but as far as BUSD, it will affect it positively because people will move to those well-backed coins. BUSD is actually the best-backed stable coin out there when it comes to one-to-one with dollars. Right? Technically, PAXG is the best one because it's backed by gold. It's tokenized gold, but as far as dollar stable coins, BUSD is the best one. But it's not very used, and people think it's Binance's stablecoin. It's actually Pax's stablecoin that Binance uses as Binance stablecoin. Yeah, Pax is again one of the banksters and a coin and a company that has been also given the green light. Good question.
Can you expand a little bit more on the UST?
UST is the best implementation of a stablecoin system that I've ever seen. Simply because the tokenomics are set up in a way so that the value of UST is backed and the peg of USD is backed by the value of Luna, right? Which means as long as the value of Luna is higher than the value of UST, it can move up and down as much as you like. And it's actually, Luna is burnt to create UST and UST is burnt to create Luna whenever need be to actually maintain that peg. Now, if they all of a sudden decide it's not one of the chosen ones, and they say, sorry, you're not allowed to print US dollars because that's now illegal. Then no matter, and it's decentralized and we think, well, they can't shut it down. They can't control it. They can, and we're going to talk about that. The regulations in the banking system are going to create gates where you will not be able to bring in liquidity that's generated in systems which don't agree with the regulatory structure. So until that happens, best when that happens, I'm out, right? Yeah.
Do you know about UST having kill switch centralization?
Sorry?
That like UST and Terra have a kill switch where they cannot be regulated. They have a kill switch they can implement, or they become fully decentralized.
They do have a kill switch. Again, I didn't know about this kill switch, but I know they have the capacity to go fully decentralized. And this is why decentralization is not the answer, because, and we're going to go into details of this, because the banking system is this world, right? With banks and regulations around it that only certain people are allowed to enter, and that's how we buy milk, right? That's how we feed our children. That system will always exist. So you can go on Luna and let's say they make Luna illegal, or not Luna, UST illegal. You go on there and generate a bunch of prosperity. They're going to make every single legal exchange, make it illegal for them to first of all service that. Secondly, if you are found to be generating wealth in that ecosystem, if it's illegal, and then you try to convert it across any interoperability layer into money, which is dollars or whichever currency you're using, you will not be allowed to. So the decentralized part of it, it's not the answer. Their plan isn't to control the thing itself. Their plan is to come up with stuff that kills it without, and most people will run from it. It's not even about them having to control it. It's when they control the psyche to tell people, guess what? That stuff, we don't like it anymore. People are going to leave it and run from it, and the liquidity is going to dry up. And at that point, UST fundamentally would just dry up on its own because the liquidity is no longer necessary. It all gets turned into Luna and then it disappears, right? Is that going to happen? I think so. because again, the US dollar is not allowed to be printed by anybody other than the banksters. So at some point, in my worldview, that does happen. Until that happens, fantastic ecosystem to be in, right? So now, Tether has implemented something called the travel rule. They've actually come up with a system that they've attached to their system, which is, so right now when money moves from one place to another, it has to be reported in a very specific way. You know, it follows something called the travel rule. When you transfer $10,000 globally, it has to be reported to certain authorities in a very specific way, and the person who's sending it and the person who's receiving it have to be reported, and the IDs have to be verified. Tether has now implemented a tracking system that allows that to happen. Now, how they're planning on getting everybody's identity, I don't know, because in a decentralized world, you can't get people's identity. But when Tether starts to implement it, the scammiest of the scammers starts to implement it, expect it to come to every single other place. And that's another way that they can kill people. They can say, oh, you're decentralized, great, but you got to follow the travel rule. And if you're not following the travel rule, then you're illegal, right? So you're not illegal. You can do whatever you want. You just got to follow the travel rule. Kind of like what they've done with the regulations. Remember they said in the US, we are not going to make crypto illegal. They all came out, they said, we're not going to make crypto illegal. We went, yeah, crypto shoots to the moon. Everybody's like, yeah, it's all good, everything's good. And then they sign a bill into law that's being signed as we speak that says it is illegal to transfer anything more than $10,000 without getting their social security number, their information, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's not illegal for you to do that, but you legally can't comply with the activity that you're doing. So it's pseudo illegal. And a similar thing will be done for most cryptos. And that's why I'm saying most cryptos will not be able to comply with the regulatory wall that's coming. Because it's not illegal for you to do what you're doing, but as long, if you don't follow this one rule, then your activities become illegal. Sorry, what was the question? That's a good question. So it is going to start being implemented next year. So the question was, when will the regulations for stablecoin come? They're already in the works. They're already, so the Financial Action Task Force, the President's Group on whatever, and a few other non-government organizations, global groups, have already said that this is a high risk environment, and they've already come up with recommendations on how to control stablecoins. I don't know when it's going to happen exactly, but it's going to happen between, I would say, November 2022 and November 2025. Simply because that is when the new system goes live that allows them to actually implement the laws that we're talking about, right? So it's on the horizon, it's coming up. When would I see them pulling the pin on Tether? Sometime in this cycle. Because institutions do not want to enter a space that's based on a scam. They know it. They don't play anywhere where they don't understand the full landscape. They're not going to enter a landscape that's and buy assets whose value has been inflated using fake money, effectively.
Can it affect another coins?
Sorry?
Can this affect another coins?
This is going to affect all the coins. Yeah, because like, okay, I printed a bunch of money that I said was backed by stuff that's actually worthless, which is Chinese debt, and then I went out and I bought a bunch of coins, and I pumped up their value. I buy from you, you buy from me, I buy from you, you buy from me, and I use this fake money to pump up the value to an inflated valuation. When the trust in that original coin goes away, first of all, a bunch of liquidity dries up because you no longer have the value to be able to transact in that, especially if you're holding that coin. Secondly, then the actual valuation of the asset that we purchase is no longer considered the valuation of the asset, so the value of the asset should drop, right? So it will affect the entire space. It's meant to affect the entire space because that's how they make sure that they bring the prices down so institutions can come in. And that's always the game. The game is pump the prices up a little bit, get you all convinced that we're going to get rich. Once the prices go up to a significant level, we all come in thinking, like people are doing today, I want to get rich, I'll buy it at 67. So then the whales offload onto the little guys like, oh, you want to get rich? Here you go. Here's your ticket to getting rich. And then people buy it for too high of a price. And by the time they've offloaded their giant bags, we've given them our money. Guess what happens to the price? Because nobody's buying it anymore. There's more selling than buying. The price drops. We all panic, like what's going on right now. there's a 30% drop or a 50% drop, people panic. Oh my God, I just lost 50% of my money. And guess what they do? They make the biggest mistake ever. They sell it and they actually lose the 50% of money. And the guy sitting on the other side is the institution with the big bags who just made a ton of profit, and now you're giving him the asset for 50% off. That's the whole game. And that process is gonna, pulling the tether grenade, I'm like waiting for it. I'm so happy when that happens because I'm gonna sell everything I can to try to go into it. I'm keeping cash on the sides to make sure I'm able to do that. So, sorry. So that's the idea. It'll affect the whole space, but if you're the person with cash, it'll be the best buying opportunity ever. That travel rule is something to be concerned about because they're going to implement that across everywhere. So when they tell Luna or Terra that you have to actually, or UST that you actually have to, please turn on. Sorry, it's not. The other thing now they're saying is stable coins are probably going to end up being regulated as banks. That's one of the things that they're saying pretty heavily. They're recommending that stable coins should be regulated as banks, which stable coins. They're not going to care. They're going to leave blanket rules that just completely destroy whole industries and completely create other industries which they themselves control. I'm talking about the global elite that run the entire world. I'm talking about the people who actually create the laws across the world. I'm talking about the NGOs that control the financial system. Not the US is just the head of the snake. You know, it's like it's a canary in the coal mine. What happens in the US gets implemented everywhere because yes, global commerce goes through US right now, goes through New York because they're the ones who are holding the reserve currency. But when the US does it, yes, the same thing will be implemented across the world. Do not take the US as something that you think, you know, oh, it's only happening in the US. No. Remember 2008? It only happened in the US, and then guess what happened? It destroyed economies across the world.
Is that what crypto's meant to do? Solve like this dominance of the dollar?
It is, but it's not going to happen without the collapse of the old system, right? What we're talking about is the next system that's coming out, the next 100-year system like we talked about, is the crypto system, where the dominance of the US dollar falls over 15 years. It's going to take about 15 years for that process to play out and about 20 to 25 years for the dollar to just disappear as the global reserve currency. But on the way to that is what I'm talking about. They're going to make sure that they, first of all, create a new paradigm that's fully controlled by the banksters. You remember the internet? It came out, it was the harbinger of freedom. It was supposed to be outside of jurisdictions, free, unstoppable across the world, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of everything. And guess what happened? It became the greatest tool of enslavement we've ever had. This is called blockchain. Blockchain. Words matter. It's going to block you and it's going to chain you. Okay? That's a bit of a joke, but it should really hit the spot for you. We're like blockchain, freedom. I want to get freedom through blockchain. I'm going to let computers run my life. Computers that have no people involved are going to run my life through algorithms, which are going to be dictated by some authorities, so some central planning NGOs that determine which ones get implemented. And I'm going to get a free world from that? No, we're entering the metaverse, which is going to be a 100% controlled reality. And I mean, all of your senses, all of your visions, all of your perception, all of your money, all of your everything will be controlled, and absolutely no freedom will exist in that world. And that's what we're building with crypto. And we think, you know, we bring this thing home thinking that this is our mode to freedom. No, it's like the internet. They just wanted us to bring it in and give it to our kids. There will be decentralization. There will. That's why I see two worlds being built. There's the world that they're building with it, which is this beautiful prison, which is the Brave New World, 1984, all those ideas that were talked about since the Technocratic Manifestos came out in the 1900s. There's that world. And then there's the world the crazies are building, the rest of us, where we're like, okay, guess what? The guy who built the internet is building a new internet that can't be controlled the same way. And we're going to implement new systems. And we're going to figure out there's always a way outside of the system. Now, it's going to become really difficult. So now you got to choose. You got to choose. Do you want to live in that new world, in the metaverse world, where they're going to give you and we're going to talk about CBDCs, but they're going to give you currencies that just show up in your wallet. You'll be able to rent a car that picks you up and drops you off somewhere. Drones will pick you up and drop you off. Food will be delivered to you. You'll be able to, you know, participate in this magical world. You can do that, or you can just figure out your own shit, grow your own food, figure out your own economy, figure out how to travel, figure out everything around you, and you can be decentralized. It's your choice. I'm going with option 1.5. I want to be like one leg inside so I can like see what's going on, and one leg on the outside so I have my options, right? And that's why we're keeping an eye on a lot of these things, because if you stay ahead of these things, there's always a way, because this cage is being built for us. It's not being built for the wealthy. The wealthy always have a way out. How many people here pay taxes? That's one hand that was raised. If you know how to play the game, you don't pay taxes. Workers pay taxes. If you have wealth, you learn how not to pay taxes. Or, I mean, don't put your hand up, but some people in the room are like, I just don't fucking pay taxes, period. Like, I don't even follow the techniques and stuff. Period. But you, I mean, you know, you got your shit. No, you got your shit figured out. But that's the point. That there's one world that exists for the average people, and then there's a completely different level of access and stuff that exists for the wealthy. So if you stay ahead of these things, you can play the game the way that they play it, especially because we're becoming wealthy through this process. So as long as you're playing the game the way that they play it, they have free access to everything, right? So going back to regulations, stablecoins are now most likely going to be regulated as banks, which would then again hit things like UST and cause problems, right? Now, another concerning regulation that's coming out is something called the VASP regulation from the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force. They're the guys tasked with stopping us from laundering money. But what they actually do is they make sure that we're kind of kept in check, that we don't get a little too crazy and start coming up with stuff where we start generating too much prosperity for ourselves. They've come up with recommendations which actually started to be implemented by countries in this month, that said anybody who interacts with crypto should be designated as a virtual asset service provider, a VASP. If this gets implemented, pretty much all of us become virtual asset service providers. So we have to then follow a regulatory regime that we can't follow, which then again makes us regulatorily incompliant. Therefore, our wealth becomes whatever. Is it going to happen? Probably not us, but once you go beyond a certain point, you will be designated a virtual asset service provider. In which case, just like sending $100,000 of crypto to somebody or from one place to another will become regulatorily incompliant. And these are the kind of things they're going to do. They're not going to say it's illegal for you to put it in your wallet. Well, your wallet's legal. That's fine. But if you move this much and you don't follow our regulations, then you're a virtual asset service provider, and only a centralized institution is allowed to do that, who you will pay fees. The same thing as banks. So that's another concerning one that's coming up. Let's see what happens. The other thing is like this like infrastructure bill. That should be concerning you too, because they said we're not going to make crypto illegal. We're not going to make crypto illegal. Trust me, we're not going to make crypto illegal. And then we all believe that they're not going to make crypto illegal. And then they released a law saying if you move more than $10,000 without getting all the info, it's a felony. It's like 6 years prison minimum, and it's an actual felony for you to do this because you are creating a world where money laundering can happen easily. So same thing now. An exchange can move that much money around. They can get your information pretty easily, no problem. For us to interact between ourselves and create the decentralized world, if this law is not changed by the time it goes live by January 1st, 2024, which almost certainly it will be, it would be a felony for us to just do what we basically do. All of DeFi dies. All of the old DeFi dies, and a new DeFi would have to be built that works around those regulations. And we think, no, we're not going to let it die. It doesn't matter. Like, whose money are you planning on actually making in DeFi and all these places? You need the money from the wealthy to actually get to the point where DeFi gets implemented. And the way I'm looking at it is most of the stuff that's happened until now are just beta tests. This is how the internet was built. 1983 to 1997, even like 2000, was just a beta test. Bunch of ideas, pie in the sky ideas. We have technologies, we have codes, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. A lot of money flowed into that space. A lot of people believed the ideas. The next thing that happened is most of those companies died, because statistically 90% of startups die, and 90% of the startups that actually work out of that 10%. So 90% of startups die statistically. Out of the 10% that survive, 9% are made by somebody who's made a startup before. Can you please just close the door? Yeah, please. We can take a, we usually don't do bathroom breaks. We just kind of like pee ourselves. I'm just kidding. No, so I mean, we can do a question and answer break right now in the middle. You know, like, any questions about what we've covered until now?
Yeah, I guess.
So I'm using an exchange called ZB, which is, you know, close to the bottom of the list, but it allows me to get my money out of China because they offer OTC trading. So I can convert my money in China from my bank. I can take it and transfer it to some, you know, individual, and then they gave me USDT. So it's a way to kind of get my money out of the bank from China, which has been working for me. And then I can just buy crypto on that exchange. So I don't know really.
That's great.
Yeah.
So as long as it works, perfect. I mean, you know, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. When I'm saying Tether's like this, I'm not saying it's dying tomorrow. You know, I use Tether, but I don't sit in it. Are you holding that USDT as USDT and just sitting on it?
No.
Okay. And then are you holding those coins on that same exchange?
I am, yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
That then you're
I'm looking for alternatives to that.
yeah.
I have been able to transfer my Luna off the site and transfer it into my wallet.
Get all of your wealth on this.
Okay.
Yeah. Never leave anything there. Like, the only place I leave it is places where there's hundreds of billions of dollars being held for the wealthy. Even there, I only keep whatever I need to keep to be able to set orders on. Everything else you should be holding it yourself.
So send it to KuCoin or some other exchange.
I wouldn't even send it to KuCoin. Put it on a hard wallet and store it yourself, right? Like, because even KuCoin is really exposed to the tether risk, you know. And this is one of those things where, like, nothing's happened for years of this, you know, 4 years of this going by. Nothing could happen for the next 4 years, but the day it happens, it becomes one big problem for you. And at that point, you'll log into your exchange and try to move it, and they'll have technical difficulties. And then you're going to have really big technical difficulties.
How do I find a hard wallet? How do I get one of those?
You can, like depending on which coins you're holding, right? You get like Ledger. There's like a bunch of different hard wallets.
Physical device, right?
I mean, so some of the stuff, like some of the main coins that you're holding should be available on the hard wallets, right? So you can get a Ledger or a Trezor, or I think there's like a bunch of different ones. Buy 2 of those, not from Indonesia. Buy them from the actual provider from overseas and get it shipped, and then activate one of those. If there are coins which you can't hold on those wallets, then find soft wallets, which are like, you know, app wallets, which can actually hold those specific coins and put those coins in there.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's better because
So.
you actually have control over it. They can't restrict you.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then, you know, there's no difficulties when it comes to that, right? Your money is with you. So great. My thing is, first get your money out of the banks. You know, that's my step number 1. I don't care how that goes. Just somehow figure out a way to get your money out of the bank. And right now we're in the regulatory wild west, where it's too expensive for them to track us and find out what's going on. That's why I think until November 2022, a lot of this stuff is just, you know, it's FUD. It's meant to just scare people. Once they actually have the means of control of the banking system and it goes live, especially by 2025, at that point, it'll become, you know, you don't want to touch any of that stuff. But for now, get your money out of the banks, especially out of China, convert it into whichever cryptos, hold them yourself, have multiple exchanges that you can exchange them on. Don't just rely on one exchange where you can exchange it for whatever, you know, stable coin or whatever else you need. And then use one of them that work the most efficiently for you, but always pull the money off and keep it with yourself. Yes, sir.
So you're saying like $10,000 is the marker for them to flag it, right?
Will be once the law goes live.
So is that like, what if I send transactions of $9,000?
That's a good question. That's still illegal. That's still illegal because you're trying to subvert the law. Right? So like even like right now, and the thing is, you know, with a lot of this stuff, until they can actually make sure that they can track what you're doing and control you and kind of automate the process of punishing you for it, it's, you know, it's not like it's going to happen. Now, remember, that law applies to people doing it. You know, certain laws don't apply to institutions doing it. Certain institutions can be in other jurisdictions. You can have overseas companies set up that don't require the same kind of stuff. So there's ways around these regulations which are legally within their system. That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing all my wealth. I'm an American citizen, but I bring all my wealth into Indonesia and other countries. I hold them within entities. Those entities hold the assets, make all the profits on the assets, and then they pay the tax of the jurisdiction which they're in. And SIM doesn't make any money, right? So that same process can be used for for whatever you want to do. And a lot of these regulations won't apply if you're following. And these are the techniques that I'm talking about. The wealthy do it this way. You know, if you read Pandora Papers, most of their wealth is held inside of entities which are not inside of the existing jurisdiction. So they're allowed to do whatever they want. But yes, if you transfer 9,000 twice, technically speaking, it is illegal because you're actively trying to subvert the law, in which case the felony would be that you get charged for longer because you knew the law and you purposely tried to subvert it. Yeah, or at least that's the idea. You know, let's see if it actually goes into effect. I don't think it's gonna, because we now have a lot of lobbying power. Crypto has a lot of lobbying power when we have enough money to make sure we lobby governments and buy regulators and do the same thing that those guys are doing. And when it comes to like banks and banksters, they can make sure that, you know, these laws are kind of soft. Right? Another thing that should really concern you as far as regulations is central bank digital currencies. The world that's being built will, according to my research, will look like this. There will be a world of banking services that will be usable by the average normal people. They will be based on currencies like it's always been. These currencies will be digital currencies, central bank digital currencies, no longer, like right now, the currencies that are created, the central bank prints a bit of currency and gives it to the banks. The banks use it as a reserve to give out loans, and that giving out of the loan process creates most of the money into existence. The central bank digital currencies will be created by the central bank, 100% of it, and it will be given to certain accounts, to the accounts of its citizens by the central bank directly, and will be controlled. And if you won't be able to buy certain things with it, like if you want to go buy crypto with it, sorry, you can't. If you want to buy milk with it, okay. If you're a dissident, you will not be allowed to operate, kind of like what's going on in China. They can just make your financial services disappear because your social credit system score doesn't match. This is the tech that's being built out. And this, yes. This is in their own documents, and this is what's being implemented in China today. And everything that's being done in China, it has come here, including a certain virus or something. But everything that's being done in China is coming here. Expect that. And this is my approximation of what happens by reading the documents of the organizations that have said that they're going to do this. Yeah. This is from the documentation themselves. And don't trust me, please go read about it yourself. Learn about CBDCs, learn about what they mean, learn about what their plan of implementation is. And it is very secretive, right? But the World Economic Forum is saying CBDCs are going to come out. 80% of the central banks in the world are working on CBDCs. And all CBDCs are, central bank digital currencies are a digitized version of the same currency that we have. But the only thing that it allows them to do beyond what we have today is complete control of expenditure and programmable money that allows it to be tracked, and every single movement gets tracked, automated, and put into a big database. But the way we're seeing it implemented in China is that there is a social credit system and they can make you disappear from it. And now we have a digital identification system that's being implemented around us, these passports everybody's told to get. Most of you probably have a QR code. That QR code is part of a digital identity system where you better follow the damn laws and you better have this QR code, otherwise we won't let you fly, we won't let you work, we won't let you eat, we won't let you move, we won't let your kids go to school. Other than that, everything is fine. Right? And that system is the precursor. That's the system I need in place to then implement the CBDC system. But the point is, that central bank digital currency system will be based on currencies. And what's happening today? Every single currency in the world is losing value against the dollar. Go look up all your currencies. Every single currency in the world is losing value against the dollar. And the dollar is being printed like it's going out of style. So the dollar is, their own stats are saying the dollar is losing value at 1% a month. And when their own stats say that, it's much worse than that. You know, if they printed 25% of the dollars in the last year, then it's lost 25% of its value, which is 2% per month. But so now, sorry, if every single currency is losing value against the dollar, what are people going to do? They're going to rush to the dollar, right? You're going to actually convert to the dollar. And guess what the dollar is doing? It's losing value. So everything that's denominated in currencies is going up in their currency denominated value. People think they're getting rich, but actually they're getting poor. Even though your real estate is going up at 25%, if they printed 25% of the dollars, you made 0%. And guess what they're going to do next year? Print more. And guess what they're going to do the year after? Print more. Every single fiat currency that's ever existed had to go on a printing curve at the end, which led to hyperinflation. Sometimes over 10 years, I'm putting it at 15 years, according to the financial experts that I follow. Robert Breedlove, great guy. He'll explain all this stuff way better than I can explain.
So as this day of Armageddon approaches, how does one protect oneself?
This day of Armageddon is not going to come. It's not Armageddon. It's just the death of a system that we hold on to so tightly because we love it, because we're used to it. There's a much better system that's coming out. There's a much better system that's coming out. The old system was steal, accrue, keep, more. We talked about this, more. I'm going to get rich. You know who's getting poor? Ketut. You know who you're stealing from? That guy in the middle of India who made your product at pennies on the dollar because you want more and we want to accrue stuff. That's ruining the world. That system needs to die. And that system is going to die by central bank digital currencies that are going to come out, and anybody who's sitting in that old system is going to have their value being stolen from them without them ever having to pay a penny of tax, even if they choose not to, as they're inflating the currency supplies, and they're going to transition you to wallets, which are going to be filled with currencies that become worthless over time. So even if you accrue, even if you get more, one day your $1 million is like the million rupiah. It just takes 15 years to happen, 20 years to happen, right? So this is the death of a system that my generation is waiting for. My generation can't even get a house. Why? Because baby boomer generation bought everything and owned everything and leveraged it and took on the debt. That's you, Nick. I'm looking at you, okay? That they leveraged everything. No, but this is the point. This is how the world works. That the older generations bought everything, leveraged everything, took debt, which is stealing from the future generations, and enjoyed the prosperity and handed us a world with a ton of debt and not a future for the world. And you know what my generation said? We're making a digital version. Your world is going to die now. And it's not my generation. This is just the way of the world. The old world's going to die. You'd better transition to our world, which is super complicated. You got to click like 17 things. And you got to make sure you know your wallets and the clickety boom, 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 and oops, your money's gone. You know, you better come to that world with us. Otherwise, your real estate and your stocks and your all this stuff, it's done. That world's done. So this Armageddon day is coming. Something is coming that is just like COVID, right? Everything was fine, and then guess what happened? The world's turned off. The entire world's turned off. You want to go in? No, you can't. You want to eat? Sorry, supply chains are shut down. You want to buy something? Sorry, you can't. You want to do anything? Your world is done. And there's another, within the next 5 years, there's another event coming. Actually not even just one event. There will be a multitude of events that will make us all beg to go to this new system where we give complete control of our privacy, our sovereignty, our everything over to this new system. Because yeah, because I'm in the new system.
Give away all of your privacy, your sovereignty, etc.
I'm in the new system. And yes, partially, yes. Take my privacy. You want to know everything that I'm spending? SIM doesn't make any money. You want to see what my company is doing? You can't. You can't, because that company is owned by another company. And that company is owned by another company. And that company is owned by the company over there. You want to find out what they're doing? Spend about $1 million, figure out what they're doing. Absolutely. If you like to pull a case out again. Even then, you'll find a bunch of lawyers who are doing the stuff the right way. So yeah, take my privacy. I have 2 phones and I have my location turned on. I'm saying all this stuff out in the open because as far as I'm concerned, we have to accept that that's the world that we're going to be living in. The privacy, freedom, I want to own everything, more world, gone. The sharing, everything about you is known, digital identification, you're part of a collective that's all working together or something like that is coming. You don't want to participate in that world? Great, exit it. Figure out your own shit. You want the prosperity that's being generated, you want to participate in the new world, but you don't want to agree with the laws. How many times do we hit I agree? Every time, right? Hit I don't agree and watch what happens. Sign up to Google and hit I don't agree. Good. You can't use Google. Sign up to your banking and hit I don't agree. Good. You can't use the banks. You better be able to pull out food and do all this stuff. So for me, I'm like, this world needs to die. And the way the new world's going to work, this is according to their own, they're screaming it from the rooftops. Go read the documents from the World Economic Forum, from the Bank of International Settlements, from IMF, just read the documents, guys. It's on their websites. You will own nothing and you will be really, really like joyous. You'll be jumping for joy because you don't own anything. They put ads on buses and billboards and we're like, conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy theory. The guys who run the world are telling us that they're going to do this. So what are they telling you? They're going to build a world that's now going to be run on central bank digital currencies. If you stay in this old world, your value is going to be deflated away by destroying the value of the currencies themselves. It'll inflate to a point where no matter how much you accrue, you will not be able to survive. What are the wealthy doing in the meantime? They're transitioning themselves to assets. Land, gold, commodities, digital assets. They just created a new asset class. They just created a completely new asset class. And they're transitioning to this asset class, and now we're sitting at the front of it, and they're going to make sure that they take it from us as much as possible for them to transition to the new one. But that central bank digital currency world is coming. Hello, how are you? Oh, so cute. Did you know central bank digital currencies are coming? That's literally the cutest dog I've ever seen. All right, so to answer your question, how do you protect yourself from that? You move to the new paradigm. You shift to the new paradigm. You have businesses that produce stuff and have services. Those are done. We're building a new world where goods and services are not necessary anymore. I can have a villa in the metaverse instantly. I can travel to Hawaii without ever leaving my house. And you think, oh, a bunch of goggles on your face are going to be good? No, we're about to go to the world where there's a internet of senses being built. Every single one of your senses will be connected into a virtual reality world where they will be able to make you hallucinate whatever you want. And if you think this is all conspiracy, I'm an electronics engineer. We've been building the damn systems. I was building these chips 12 years ago with my own hands because I wanted to learn about all these things. Okay, there's a world coming where they can make you hallucinate that you are Caesar leading an army in Rome. You think people are going to want to be in this world? When they're destroying the world outside, you're not allowed to go anywhere, you're not allowed to do anything. Guess what? In here, you're the king of the world. 100% of anything you want, free. Oh, you want food? Here's a little bit of central bank digital currencies. Food will arrive, automatically delivered to you by some whatever. Stay home. The world is unsafe. There are viruses outside that will kill you. Okay? In that world, goods and services, I don't need them. Stuff, I don't need it. Clothes, I have an infinite number of them. I can just put them on. So what do I need? So you're in this old world, building houses and building restaurants and building products that you got to ship across complicated supply chains built in 30 countries by 400,000 different people that is going to be bought with money that's becoming worthless. Leave that paradigm. Completely leave that paradigm. dive into the paradigm where you go digital. Like these guys, to them going digital, they're like, what do you mean go digital? Digital is life. All right, we play online already. You ask kids, go outside and play with your friends. They're like, no, I'm gonna go inside and play with my friend. You know, and they sit at home and they go Fortnite with each other, and they're like, and this is just the beginning. You know, and then I had to go through that shift. They'd be like, but I want you to go outside and play in a playground like we used to play. We used to take a tire and just hit a tire around. And they're like, you're so stupid. Like, you're so stupid. And then when I have a conversation with him, he's 13 and he goes, yeah, you know, the Weimar currency collapse was pretty terrible because blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know about the Weimar currency collapse? And I'm like, adults don't even know what that is. So these kids have transcended and entered a world of information, and they're living digitally, and they're prepping themselves to live in that new paradigm, while we are so busy holding on to an old paradigm that we just don't want it to die. And I'm with you. I'm building a farm. They don't need a gym. It's part of the new system that's coming. The point is to get you to create your own reality, your own personalized reality, your own personalized world. That's what's going on right now. That's why we're in echo chambers of social media, where you go create the world. Online? How do we socialize right now? I socialize with people in Canada through Zoom. I know, it's shocking, right? Yeah, but that's the world that's coming. So I'm embracing that world and I'm building a farm at the same time, right? So that's how one of my feet is in, one of my feet is out. I'm growing food with my own hands, but I'm also getting the VR headset the moment that it comes out. So I'm one of the first people in that world, because that's how they're already out, but there's a VR AR version that's going to be released by Apple this upcoming year, and released by Facebook this upcoming year, and Amazon the year after. And that's what's really going to implement the metaverse into the world. Speaking back to laws, I get so distracted. Securities laws. Right now, there's a lawsuit out against Ripple, my darling, because, you know, my baby, my second love. Don't tell my girlfriend. It's because they're being sued because they're saying that you minted this coin as a security. When you actually look at it, that coin was specifically, they put it through loops that made it so that technically it can't be called a security, but a security is a stock or a tokenized asset, right? Those laws could very well be used to come after all of crypto. They could very well say, well, what did you do? You printed a coin that was used to raise capital to build your product, and then it's used as a governance. Well, that's exactly the definition of a security. So you're illegal. That's one of the ways that they could come after a lot of coins. Are they gonna? I don't know, but they're doing it as we speak, and they're beta testing it. Now, there's a high likelihood that when Ripple wins that lawsuit, a new regulatory paradigm comes out where these digital assets are classified as something other than a security, which would be the basis for a lot of other coins getting regulatory clarity. That's what I see happening more than them coming after it. But they are going to create some kind of a paradigm which will be used to filter which projects are allowed to actually participate in this world. And that will, you know, in this process, many of the existing ones will die because they won't comply in some capacity, or there's some other regulation that will cause them to not be benefit or fruitful. Now, that Ripple lawsuit, in my approximation, is their way of giving Ripple regulatory clarity. Just like they're suing USDC, which is the one that they've chosen, and the partnerships are there, and it's in their documents that they're going to use that one to build many of the systems, and they're allowed to print US dollars, yet they're suing them, right? So now we're living in a backwards world. That's another way to transition to this world. Think backwards. When the world got shut down, stocks went up. When they sue somebody, then they're giving them regulatory clarity. Providing stuff and improving people's lives is no longer the way to get rich. Doing nothing and creating a virtual world is apparently now the way to get rich. Avoiding debt is the worst thing that you can do. Avoiding credit card debt, sure, but avoiding debt has become the antithesis of wealth nowadays. Generating debt is the thing that generates wealth. So the entire world that we've been taught, real estate used to be the safest asset. Guess what happened the moment that they hit the red button on the economy? It became one of the riskiest assets. It became a liability. We just actually, if you watch the video that I posted in the group, I just did an analysis where we were able to spot that as of this year, Bitcoin has become the safe haven asset for the globe. The dollar was the safe haven asset where people used to run to from stocks and from riskier investments when times got bad. Up until COVID, that was the case. People ran to the dollar, Bitcoin crashed, dollar went up. As of the beginning of this year, they have become in tandem because people are realizing, I don't want to go to the dollar. The dollar is printing. It's actually a riskier asset. So now the riskiest asset that we've ever known, crypto, has become the safe haven asset. So flip everything on its head. If you believe keeping money in the bank is safe, that's literally the riskiest thing that you can do. Go back and watch the bank bail-in talk that we did. But just, first of all, they're printing the money. They're stealing it at 25% a year. Secondly, the bank has a regulation saying that we can just keep it. We don't even owe it to you. We're going to give you worthless stock. And thirdly, your money's sitting around. When money sits, somebody takes it. That's just the law of money. So the safest thing, keeping money in the bank, is the riskiest thing. The riskiest thing, having crypto, is now apparently the safest thing. Welcome to backwards la la land, right? So, sorry, go ahead. It's all the same. As soon as Coinbase gets sued, then they're going to get regulatory clarity to go do it. Oh, that lawsuit. Yeah, I mean, Coinbase is terrible. They're horrendous. We've had like millions of dollars stuck in Coinbase and they're like, you can't take it out. We're like, why? They're like, because it's on hold. And then it's still on hold. But this person is a New York resident and they're only allowed to invest in very specific exchanges, and their regulatory regime made it so Coinbase is the only one. Kraken. Kraken, Crypto.com is a good one. Yeah, but if you're a New York resident, you can't use Kraken. And if you're from Texas, you can't use Kraken. I'm sorry, Jana. But you know, Coinbase is terrible. Yeah, but that's also the one that they give. They're suing Coinbase for creating digital tokenized products because they don't want them to give an 8% yield. That's what people think. But they're actually suing them so that once they settle the lawsuit, they'll be the only place given the clarity to actually do it. Right? So it's again backwards land. So going through just a few more of these. We're talking about Ripple, so naturally I have to talk about one of my favorite regulations, the ISO 20022 banking language that's being implemented across the world. This is the implementation of a system that's been planned since 1988 that takes complete control of every single penny that moves in the world. Not in crypto. In crypto, you'll still be able to move in some capacity across on blockchains and across blockchains in some capacity. But within the banking system, every penny that moves will be controlled, tracked, automatically taxed, and have the fluidity to move across the world like information moves today because of this messaging language called ISO 20022 messaging language. Realistically, what it means is 100% of your monetary sovereignty will have to be given up for you to transition to this new system, which is why I think that we're going to have massive events which are going to cause us to hit I agree on the button because we'll be so desperate to move to this new system. But what it is one single language that every single financial institution in the world will be forced to speak by November of 2025. That's why I'm saying November 2022 to 2025, somewhere in between that I see all these things playing out, because that's the implementation of the system goes live from November 2022, even though the European Union already has it live and many other places already have it live. But the implementation starts in November 2022 and it finishes in November of 2025. And after that, any institution that's not compliant with the system will not be allowed to be a financial institution on the global scale. And what that regulation says is that every single penny that moves anywhere will be 100% traced and tracked, tied to the identity of the sender and the receiver, will be automatically reported to every single authority that is involved in the chain. So, you know, you're sending that same thing. I'm selling my stocks in US and I'm buying some real estate here. So the moment And I won't even need brokers. I won't need people. People are not going to be involved in this process anymore. No more lawyers, no more nothing. The real estate here will be tokenized, as we're doing with this place. And I will hit sell on my stocks, who will be hooked up to the system. A smart contract will activate from their side that will know that I wanted to come here and pay for real estate here. Real estate here is already tokenized, so I can verifiably prove the identity of it. It will automatically notify the US government that I'm moving $100,000. It will automatically notify the Indonesian government that I just I'm buying real estate for $100,000. And in between the $100,000 moving from here to buy this tokenized real estate in 3 seconds or 4 seconds, the tax will be taken automatically and sent to the right places. That's literally coded into the system. And they've now made it illegal for anybody to not follow that system by 2025. Great question. That's a great question. Indonesia is the only country that I know of that has said, we will use it as much as we have to. Okay? They've said that even the Financial Action Task Force regulations, they've said we're going to observe. We're sitting on the sidelines and we're observing. They've said central bank digital currencies, no, we don't. We like our system the way it is. Cash is kind of good for us. They've said they're probably not going to implement this system the way that I'm talking. What's probably going to end up happening is there will be the bigger banks, because right now the way the money moves is it's more moving to correspondent banks. If you want to do the same thing right now, it would go to a Chase account or a Citi account in US, and then it would go to a correspondent bank account that Chase or Citi have here, and then they would then release the funds to the correspondent bank. The banks here will have to speak the language. The banks here will have to speak the language, otherwise they're not going to get World Bank loans. They're not going to get anything. And Indonesia is on the list of countries that is going to implement that system, simply because otherwise you're outside of either that, or you have to come up with a system that is able to translate to that language reliably and be able to communicate. Indonesia is going to implement it. They're not going to transition to the central bank digital currency system. But the traceability and all that stuff, it's already happening. Every single citizen is now getting the digital identity that will then be linked to their bank accounts pretty soon. But as far as like the some level of financial freedom, about 10 more years left in Indonesia before that even is gone, before they can figure out a new system to be able to build. We're as golden as it gets. There's literally, regulatorily speaking, I haven't found a better country to be in. And actually, that's a good point to touch on, that you would think, people think Indonesia is this terrible place to be. It's a third world country and they just hate crypto and this is just cartels running everything and all this stuff. No, it's a fantastic place to be. It is the one country that I've found that rides the kind of middle ground on both sides. They've actually regulatorily given crypto complete clarity today in Indonesia. There's better regulatory clarity around crypto in Indonesia without regulations than there is in the US. Okay? They have brought in crypto in a certain capacity to make sure that you're allowed to interact with it like a commodity, which means rice and crypto, they don't see a difference in it. I'm holding most of my assets in Indonesia, and I pay Indonesian tax, Indonesian corporate tax, which is 0.5%. Fantastic. And they've built regulatory structures for me to allow me to do that. It is a country that rides that toes the line between US and China, and both of them want to be friends for different reasons, and it's not besties with either, but it has benefits with both. So that lends itself to this being the best place to be, and the next 40 years in Indonesia are going to be an insane growth spurt. The third largest economy in the world, the third largest population in the world, is going to become one of the 3 largest superpowers in the world, and you're here with a young population ready for that prosperity to happen. But it's most likely going to take place mostly in the digital, not in the actual physical. The physical is happening, but it's not going to happen at the same pace.
So what will happen to Ketut?
So here's the thing, we're training Ketut. As a matter of fact, after this meeting, 30 minutes after this meeting, we're doing the same meeting.
What's going to happen to the rice farmer, the guy who's going to Ayas, to the butcher, the supermarket, the pasar, etc.?
That's a great question. Indonesia's system is still an ancient system. It's an anti-fragile system that's decentralized already. It runs from a Banjar up level. So that system isn't going to be replaced. That system is going to live.
Not indefeatable. We are community based. With that, like when I went to the Tegal Alam and they said like we cannot literally eat anything else, but we share each other. Like
so that's just
they have rice and the other has fish. That's why it works still. The people are not going to be dying because we share it.
Indonesia actually has an ancient bartering system that's still running underneath, behind the money system that's been running in parallel the whole time. We actually tried to launch a crypto here that was supposed to be changing with the system, and then I learned, no, these guys already have an anti-fragile system that runs during volcanoes and earthquakes and tsunamis. So you can shut down the electricity, you can shut down the banking system, you can shut down the entire world, and their system's going to run fine. You know, it precedes all of those things anyway. And the political system, the Banjar system, and the structuring of the society is set up from a bottom up. So rice fields are going to keep being, I mean, many of them are going to get corporatized as much as they can, but corporations can't efficiently run these rice fields. It has to be run by individuals. And labor cost is so low that they're going to keep running it, right? But the future world that's coming, the prosperity isn't going to be in the rice fields. Prosperity is going to be in the digital world. And the Indonesian population is being trained into that digital world at a pretty fast pace. And the government here is super keen on tokenization. We're having those discussions with them. They want us to come out there and lobby them on how tokenization can be used to keep natural resources as public goods, but also how to use it as a defense mechanism against foreign capital taking over Indonesia. So they're onto the stuff.
But we still have no intention whatsoever of allowing crypto to support transactions.
Yeah, but like that's the whole point. Crypto's not going to be used for transactions. Remember we said, I didn't finish this talk, but there's the CBDC world, the central bank digital currency world, that's currencies. That's the world we're going to transact in. Don't mistake it. We're not going to be buying rice with Bitcoin ever. Unless this guy's like, he's like some black market guy and he takes Bitcoin to rice and you can like smuggle rice with it and stuff, you know? But the point is we're never going to be doing that. The point is there's that world, the CBDC world, and then on the other side is the asset world where the wealthy and the bankers and the institutions will operate. They have assets that accrue value faster than the inflation of the currencies. You know, you print 4 times as much cash, they go up in value 8 times. That's what we're seeing today. That's what we've had 2 million% growth in the time that those currencies have gone up somewhat. But the idea is that digital asset world will be kept in a bubble of digital asset. You will not be using that to buy things anywhere. There will be interoperability and translation layers built, which is the means of control, where you convert that asset-based value into currencies. But that's what I'm saying. Why would I take my assets and sell them and buy the rice when my assets are going to appreciate at hundreds of % a year? 20 years down the road, that might reduce a lot. But for the next at least 10 years, we got hundreds of % a year growth on my assets. They're exponentially growing. Why would I not just take my assets and generate some debt against them at 5% and buy a ton of rice with that debt, and that 5% debt I service while my assets are growing at 200%, like Bitcoin's been doing, right? Digital assets, yeah. The physical assets are about to go into a deflationary spin. The value of physical assets is about to fall off of a cliff. Like there's certain ones that I see still doing great, like precious metals, if they don't keep suppressing the prices, which they could very well keep doing because they have paper assets to be able to do that. But like real estate, cars, all these things, they're going to inflate and then they're going to deflate. And the mechanisms of those are kind of understood by me, but I'm not the expert on that. Please go research the deflationary. What always happens in hyperinflationary environments, that first they inflate the value of they deflate the value of the currency by inflating the amount of currency that exists, and then they deflate the value of the actual assets, and that resets the whole currency system, and then the new system gets implemented in place, right? And because, like, do you want real estate right now? Do you want a business? Nobody's buying businesses now. The value of this place went from 7 million to like $1 million, like that. So the value of this whole place deflated 700% in 1 month, right? The value of all of Bali went from here to here. Now, yeah, exactly. But oh, we can't say the C word. YouTube will shut us down. No, we're not putting this on YouTube anymore. We're putting it on other places. But yeah, so there's going to be a deflation of and that's one of the ways that in stocks and bonds and commodities and all these things, their value is being deflated. Their value is going to be deflated in a big way, while the dollar numbers keep going up. But the value of the dollar is being deflated, which actually takes away the value from those things, right? But that digital asset world, so what we're doing right now is we're transitioning from the currency world to the digital asset world. I'm denominating my wealth in XRPs. I'm not denominating my wealth in dollars anymore. I want to make more XRP, right? Or more Bitcoin or more Ethereum.
Well, what you said about like the value of the real estate like dropping with COVID, obviously, but like now it's been picking up again, and it's probably gonna surge as soon as like stuff reopens.
It did. What happened in China? It surged and then it fell off of a cliff, and now nobody wants real estate. What's happening in the US? It surged and now Zillow's selling things at discount, right? It surges until the point that people don't have money to buy it, right? When it's gonna, and the Chinese are waiting with big bags. I know them. They're everything. That's a really good point. Indos are not going to let them. Indos are going to try to not let them. That's why Jakarta it has really big bags that are waiting to buy up all of Bali as well. There's a reason why they're keeping it the way it is. They keep shutting things down, and now they're re-implementing PPCam and all these things. It's because they're implementing things that destroy the economies here. People go bankrupt here, and it gets bought up locally. But even a lot of the funding that's coming from Jakarta is coming from China and coming from overseas. And that's why the Indonesian government's so keen on bringing overseas wealth here and getting investors to invest in stuff here, which is yeah, globally. And then they're trying to tokenize many of these assets so that they can actually redistribute the wealth so that Ketut can have a piece of it, right? Yeah, of course. Because real estate is super expensive. What? I mean, everything goes through a bubble. Like, real estate was in a bubble for a very long time. Since like what, the 80s, real estate has been in a massive bubble, right? It's been exploding. Now it has to correct. It has to correct and now here's the thing. It's all fun and games when normal corrections happen. And then when a completely new world gets built that gets rid of the need for real estate, what do you think that's going to do to businesses and locations and places when I can meet in the middle of Mars with my friends and be gods, right? So that new world, do not discount the metaverse. That metaverse is here to destroy this whole world, this old world that we're living in. You think it's just goggles? Don't think about it like that. It's every single asset class being affected by it. Yep. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I never said you should sell all of your assets. Do not sell all of your assets. You could lose all of your money if you do these kind of things. I personally have, because this is the paradigm that I think is the most likely to exist. But we're always heading for a 70% corruption in crypto. Maybe, but what if from here we're going for a massive run before that happens? And I'm of the opinion. I'm of the opinion that that's what we're experiencing right now. Because when institutions enter, they play in quarters. Q4, October, they pump things up, release some ETFs, get us all convinced we're going to the moon. Everybody thinks we're going to the moon by December. If all the plebs think we're going to the moon by December, we're going underground by December, right? So now there would be some, in my worldview, there would be some kind of correction into December, which would convince a lot of people that the end is here. So a lot of people will capitulate and sell. And the end of the year is when institutions like to take their profits so that they can mark it on their balance sheet and show really good profits on their books, right? So logically, it would make sense for institutional investors, who are the ones with the bags to pump this market up or down, to actually do that. That would also convince us all that this thing's going down and it's tanking, at which point in January, Q1, they would be ready to bring bigger bags in and be able to probably maybe launch spot ETFs or something, but also pump it up again. By the time we convince we're going to get rich again, next thing that's going to happen is that's not going to happen, right? So my worldview is that that's what's happening. That's why I'm sitting on. Yeah, I mean, I mean, just look at the numbers. Who makes crypto go up? Whales. What are the whales doing? They pumped it up, now they're dumping. Small whales. And the real big whales never even entered the game. They pumped and dumped in May and they never came back. The 1,000 Bitcoin people, right? And then the rest of us are here like, I'm gonna get rich. But look at what Bitcoin's done since the beginning of this year. It's actually just gone up and then come back down and gone up and come back down in a range between what, like 30 and 60? And we're over here thinking 2021 is the year where we all get rich. Guess who got rich? The guys who got there in 2020 and front ran the whole market. And now the rest of us are here offloading from them. Welcome to the game.
I ain't selling.
I ain't fucking selling. Yeah, exactly. Now that's a good Wolf of Wall Street reference. So now we got a few more minutes, 15 minutes. Let's go through tax regulations, because I know a lot of you guys are here for taxes, because we all love taxes, right? If you love taxes, throw your hands in the air. Yeah. Because a lot of people think, right, taxes. A lot of people think that, you know, because you're outside of the purview of certain regulatory jurisdictions, that you can just not worry about taxes and forget about it and just, you know, we're in the Wild Wild West. Why would I need to worry about taxes? Great, right now you probably don't. You can hide a lot of stuff. But first of all, the moment you make some significant wealth and you try to actually legitimize it, that's when questions start, like, where did you get this $1 million? And thanks for trying to transfer it. We're freezing it until you prove to us that you didn't launder it. Secondly, taxes are the best thing ever, because they give you regulations on understanding how you can play in the regulatory landscape and minimize your tax liability. You should always pay all your taxes. You just figure out a way to pay less. Right? So the regulations that are coming out now is there's a 15% global tax that's being posited and is going to go live globally. Crypto is most likely going to have special taxes put onto it. There's something very interesting that's on the horizon where they're talking about ESG taxes, environmental social guidance taxes, governance taxes, because, you know, we're destroying the planet. So the way that we stop people is we tax them. So you have property, you're destroying the planet. Time to pay some ESG taxes. Time to pay higher property taxes, which is one of the ways that they take the property from us. Oh, you have Bitcoin? Guess what? Each transaction is 75 gallons of gas. You guys are using too much stuff. So you get special ESG taxes on inefficient blockchains. That's according to their own plans that they're going to implement this on people. If you own an asset which is considered not clean, you're going to get extra taxes put on. The central bank digital currency system goes live, and guess who owns your wallet? Not the country that you're living in, the country that you're a citizen of. And when that country takes control of your wallet, that country gets to implement taxes on you as a person for their own tax regime. So at that point, you can have $1 million of Bitcoin, but the day you try to buy milk with it, the only wallet you're allowed to interact with is a CBDC wallet, and your private bank wallets will not be, well, they'll go bye-bye. And at that point, you will have a bunch of wealth that you'll have to pay taxes from a country that you don't even live in anymore. And if you think that's not coming, and if you think, oh, only the US taxes overseas income, get ready for a rude awakening. We're about to have the same system being implemented across the world. And that system will make it so that you can't operate outside of that system. You will only be allowed to operate in that one thing. So, solution? Corporatize yourself, become an entity, become a company. Companies fall under the jurisdictions of where they're established. people fall under the jurisdictions of where they're citizens. That's what I'm doing, okay? Now, even then, figure out your tax strategy. The wealthy do not get wealthy without a tax strategy. I'm sorry. One of the most important things is tax. If you can figure out a tax strategy, you will probably be led to the idea that debt is the best thing on the planet, because debt is tax-free. Take your assets, generate debt against them, send it anywhere in the world. The only tax you pay is the interest rate that you're paying. As long as your assets appreciate at a faster rate than your interest rate, you can effectively generate an infinite amount of cash against your assets forever. Great. Now, why doesn't everybody just do that? Because if you do that now, while we're at the top, and you go leverage your assets, and you borrow 50% against your assets, and the market drops 50%, you lose all of your assets. So the debt game is not to be played unless you understand the finer nuances of it, and it's not to be done at all times. But the point is, that's how a lot of people are generating cash against their assets and being tax-free. Another way is to corporatize it. Another way is there's different financial vehicles that you can put it inside of. There's funds, there's too many of them. But understand your tax liability and try to minimize it. Figure out your tax residency, at least for now. Figure out where you're a tax resident. Because a lot of people don't think about that, and then later on the roosters come home.
Can you open an account in your company name?
Yes.
You have to create a company. So you have to first create a company. And then
See,
do that offshore.
the problem isn't just opening the company and the account in the company name. The problem is, how do you follow the laws of that jurisdiction and mark things down in a way so that the tax regulations apply to you, right? If you just open a company name and then you put the crypto in there, when they do audit you, you're not going to have followed the steps necessary to make sure you meet all the regulatory compliance. What you need structures set up around your company to make sure that you have to have a team of bookkeepers, you have to have a team of tax lawyers. Ideally, you need a team of lawyers to make sure that they're fulfilling all of the requirements so that your crypto transactions follow the regulations of the jurisdiction where you're setting it up, so that this process works. And this is, again, the reason why the wealthy do it and most people don't. Good thing in Indonesia is lawyers are cheap, bookkeepers are cheap, and tax accountants are cheap, right? But it's a little bit more complicated process than just opening a company. But yes, you can open an account under a company name. As a matter of fact, we should all be companies, right? Yeah, we can do that. Let me put it on the list.
Perhaps live your life as a corporation and as a citizen. Just open source.
So is Indonesia going to set up a system to tax digital nomads who are bringing their money here from other countries?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe, maybe not. It just depends on what Indonesia does. Maybe they're gonna implement it and then 5 minutes later change it, and then 5 minutes later change it, and then 5 minutes later change it. No. That's really how Indonesia does it. Every 30 seconds they will change the regulations on you. Right now, overseas income is not taxed in Indonesia. As long as you can show that it's overseas income and the work is not performed. This is where there's a bit of a gray area, but like as long as the income is technically marked on the books as overseas income, then it's not taxed in Indonesia as of yet. Yeah.
There's only 4 countries in the world that tax overseas.
They're terrible countries. Like my home country, the US. Yeah. Last few regulations. There's regulations that don't even happen in crypto that can really affect the crypto market. Because we're always like crypto, hourly chart, 1 Bitcoin hourly chart, candles up and down, and we're like, this is where the world is. That's the entire world as far as we're concerned. But the actual world is way bigger than that. It is the financial world and it's the real world. So there's stuff that happens in the real world that can have knock-on effects in crypto, and it can really hurt you. And if you're not keeping an eye on those things, that can be detrimental. Like, for example, inflation is going nuts as we speak. Because you apparently when you print a bunch of money and you hand it to people, inflation goes up. Who would have known? In order to control inflation, remember all the world's currencies are tied to the US dollar. So what happens to the US dollar affects every single currency in the world. So with the inflation of the US dollar is inflating away the value of the other currencies. No surprise there. So the Federal Reserve and the US government are planning on increasing the interest rates for borrowing from them in order to reduce inflation. Because that's pretty much the only thing that they can do to try to reduce inflation. The moment, thank you guys.
Next Wednesday this year, right?
Every Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you then.
We'll see you guys. Thank you. They're going to raise the interest rates. They're either going to let inflation go nuts, which is going to destroy everything anyway, or they're going to raise interest rates. If they raise interest rates, that means the cost of borrowing money goes up even a little bit. That means this whole Ponzi scheme of stocks always going up, markets always going up is done, which means the value corrects, which means we have a massive stock market crash and crash in the lending markets and in the debt and the liquidity crisis, and terrible, terrible shit happens outside of crypto. What that does to crypto is it takes crypto down with it temporarily, right? So them raising rates for interest rates for borrowing and lending within the debt markets has a knock-on effect into the stock market, which has a knock-on effect into the currency markets, which has a knock-on effect into the crypto markets temporarily. So there's things happening outside which will affect crypto too. Now, again, for me, that's fantastic because that means discounts. We get to buy things at great discounts when that happens. Now, that discount might take a couple of years for you to actually cash in, because that's how you should be playing the game of crypto. Within the next 4 years, we're going to have all of these things happen. Within the next 18 months, there's a stock market crash coming. It's in the cards. They literally can't keep this thing going for a long period of time. Before that, they'll probably shoot off to the moon first. Within the next 4 years, the new banking system is coming. So the old banking system has to die. Within that same period of time, the asset bubbles have to explode and they have to reset, and asset values have to deflate. But within those 4 years, a brand new world is being built called the metaverse, and a brand new asset class is being built called crypto that's coming into adoption. We're about to go from 100 million people to over 1 billion people who are going to be adopting it within the next 4 years. And every single process that's around us is going to involve some level of decentralized blockchain involvement, and that's going to start being implemented within the next 4 years and complete within the next 9 years by 2030. And this is, again, according to their own things. So we talked about all these things being bad, but actually what's happening is each one of these things happening brings giant institutional bags of money to crypto. So every time they scare you, don't get terrified, because the whole game is pump it up, give you fear of missing out, fear. You come in because you're fearful of missing out, and dump it, give you fear of losing money. If you don't sell it, then pump it up again, get some other people FOMO'd, then dump it again, then pump it and dump it, and then get you to a point where you're just comfy. You're like, I'm solid, I'm diamond hands. I just hold things forever. HODL is the best strategy. HODL, everybody just HODL. The moment everybody HODLs, that's when the smart money goes, okay, they're on full HODL mode. Let's sell it on them because they're not going to sell it. That's kind of what's going on today again. Like, everybody was full HODL mode in right before May. And guess what the next thing that happened? Nice dump to really shake you out and scare you. Now we're in full HODL mode again. Guess what's probably coming? A dump. But if you learn to either play the game like that, where you don't HODL all the time, you turn into cash at the right times, even if it's a little early, turn into cash at the right times, and then when the dump happens, you have cash to go buy it. Either you can play that game, or you can be the person who understands, like, I'm buying stuff that is going to be implemented within the next 4 years until some landscape changes. And when each one of these things happen, you either have cash to go buy it, you benefit from that opportunity, or you simply chill and you can put whatever cash you can from external sources to try to buy it. If you just do that and don't get shaken out within the next 4 years, and you don't have the 90% of cryptos which are going to go to zero, it's impossible for you to go broke. Okay? These regulations, all these things that are happening are the best things that can happen because 1% of the world has woken up to crypto, and that's where it is today. Wait until 50% wakes up. Wait until 50 million institutions wake up to the same reality that MicroStrategy's woken up to, that holding cash is the worst thing that they can do, and start generating infinite amounts of debt to come in and buy up coins that they find to be safe and worth investing in. Is that going to be an easy journey? No. But if you're capable of that, and you're capable of meditating and doing some qigong to like really settle yourself and relax and play the long game, generational wealth is here, and this opportunity will never come again, ever again. And now we're at a point where this thing is as cemented as it gets. It's gotten all the green lights, everything necessary for us to know that whatever regulatory stuff that they do is actually there to make sure those big bags from the traditional world come to buy all this stuff up. So all these regulations are great.
I have a question. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe people are interested in it or not, but it's a simple mathematical question of like this thing of like buy when it goes up and sell when it goes up and buy when it goes down, so you can get more.
Yes.
BTC, for example.
Yes.
My mind just doesn't like. I understand lots of it in terms of math. Can we just like I don't know.
I buy $1 million of Bitcoin at $1 Bitcoin. The Bitcoin goes to $2 million. I mean $2. I have $2 million now.
You still have 2 million.
No, I bought 1 million Bitcoin for, let's say I bought one Bitcoin for $1. Right? I bought one Bitcoin for $1. Now it goes up to $2. Now I have $2, right? I have one Bitcoin. I sell it at $2. Bitcoin goes back down to $1. Now I have $2 to buy $1 Bitcoin, so I get 2 Bitcoins. Then the Bitcoin goes up to $2. I have $4. I sell it, and it goes down to $1. Now I have 4 Bitcoin. So the actual money is made. No, but the actual wealth is made on the way down, not on the way up. On the way up, just don't lose the dollars. On the way up, if you can just play the game of not losing your dollars, then on the way down, you're making assets. Every time I double my Bitcoin, whatever end gains I was going to make doubles every single time. So what people make the mistake of is we're so concerned of catching every single pump that we just stay in it. We don't actually lock in the higher amount of dollars. I do the opposite. I'm like, I made a bit more dollars. I'm locking it and putting it on the sidelines. When it goes down, I'll get to buy more of the coins. And when it goes up, 70% of the way up, I'll be out again, right? But on the way up, if I can just not lose my dollars, because taking a loss in your actual value, your denominator, is much more difficult to come back from than missing a pump. Pumps are a dime a dozen. They're happening hundreds of times a day, right? So don't worry about catching every single pump. Actually, that catching every single pump is the reason why most people get themselves in trouble. Because the way we think is, I missed it. I missed this much money that I would have made. More. You know? Whereas the smart money is like, they get in and then they pump it up and they get like, smart money started getting out by February. You realize the real amount of money in crypto left in February? Yeah, we look at the stats, they left in February. And they left it to us, and we're still here for the rest of the year, like, more. You know, while we're the ones who lose money, because we're always concerned about how much money we're gonna miss on the way up. Whereas they're more concerned with how many assets they're gonna make when it goes down.
If you huddle and you don't chase the pump,
Yeah.
because that's risky. Like, the more
It is, it's super risky. Yeah. And most people lose money in that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like a super rookie.
Yeah.
So if I just huddle all the way, in terms of like money I make.
So here's the thing. If you just hodl, you will often beat the guy who's trading. Until one day you lose 60% of your value. Right? Yeah. So you will hodl, you will hodl, and the person selling is losing 30% of value on the way up or down. Maybe they're making mistakes, whatever. But at least they're turning to cash. They're teaching themselves, I go to cash. I go to cash. You're teaching yourself, I never go to cash. 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 Talk to those people. The ones who went to their 2017, I never went to cash. They went from $100,000, 200, 500, million, 2 million, million, 500, 200. And then they were just sitting there like, do I take my 200 and I run? That takes a monk's, you have to be a freaking samurai, okay? Because most people just pull out the sword and just, and they just harakiri themselves, okay? But like, so that no, but so that if you have that mentality, like, okay, I went through a dump, I'm not fucking selling. And then you wait 4 years, and now you're sitting on triple what you made before, right? So you either have that constitution, but most people say they're going to do that, but they don't have that constitution. What most people should be doing is they should be making some more money on the way up, and at some point, take out your initial capital, put it on the sidelines at least, but also get yourself used to that. I do not worry about how much I miss on the way up. I go to cash, because the money is only made when you turn it back into dollars or turn it back into whichever denominator you're actually going with. For me, the only money I count is how many XRP did I make, right? And there's times when I could have made twice as much XRP. I don't give a shit. Did I lose XRP? No, I didn't. So I'm just gonna, as long as I just keep adding little amounts to my bags and don't worry about the pumps that I'm missing, there is so much game to be played. But if I lose 50% once, that's gonna take me years to come back from, right? So that's the game. Any other questions? Thank you. The bears jump out the window and the bulls go up the steps. You know, the crypto goes up like this and it goes down like this. So either you're the one who gets out on the steps. The wise thing is get out on the steps. And then if the dump happens, either you have cash to buy back in. If you missed the opportunity and you didn't get to buy back in at the dumps, then wait until it goes back up. Now, if that's the final dump, you're gonna have to wait 4 years. You know, but that's not what's going on right now. We're in the implementation stage of crypto. We're at the stage where this thing is going to go live. Actual use cases coming. Before that happens, there is probably a 70 to 95% dump coming in this market because we're still in a speculative mania, right? Because people are here to get rich like Shiba Inu, and the next thing that happens is all those people lose their life savings.
Do you think this 4-year cycle is still in play?
Some version of it's still in play, but I think we're going to have more cycles in between the 4-year cycle. And I think by this December, we're not going to the moon. By this December, we're actually going down. January, we're going up. March, we're going down. April, we're going up. June, we're going down. And again, this is according to my approximation. Because when institutions enter a game, that's how they play it. They'll actually even play it beginning of the month, you're going up. End of the month, you're going down. Because that's when the futures contracts close, right? And what's the date? Oh, look at that. It's the middle of the month. Guess what happened? Dump. Yeah, it's been dumping for the last few days, right? 2 days actually, right from the middle of the month. And I mean, these things don't play out one-to-one. Sometimes they fake you out and go one way or another way. My thing is, here's how I invest in things. I look at the asset, I look at its value, and I see if it's undervalued, and then I just buy it. And I just buy it, and then I just leave it. And as long as it's undervalued and I can quantifiably say that it's undervalued, I'm willing to hold it for a year, 2 years, I don't care. Because I know I see that the value of it's going to go up. Then I take some part of my portfolio, and then you just find good setups. Because crypto goes through one pumps, and then it goes stagnant for months and years. Then another pumps, same thing. So if you can at least figure out a way to get ahead of those things a bit, and call those, which is easier said than done, then some of your portfolio can be in that pump part, and some of the portfolio should be long-term holding. But the goal is to get out of crypto 100% at some point. Have a target where you get out of crypto 100% at some point. Stable coins, gold.
Certainly not banks.
Sorry?
Certainly not banks.
Never banks. Never banks. Sorry? Yeah, there's ones already that exist. USDC, BUSD, and for a long time UST. No. See, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, right? First of all, don't just believe everything I'm saying because I'm saying it. This is not the gospel. I don't know. I'm not some like all-knowing guy, right? That's already happened. Right? Yeah, and then in a roundabout way, BUSD is also a good one to be in, right? Because they're actually backed by stuff. Until there's some new regulation that comes out that makes it otherwise, UST is a great coin to be in. Like as a crypto head, I personally like UST more than I like all the rest of them, because with the 20% interest, sure. But you can go to stable coins for some period of time. But if you're going to sit there for months and years, if you're going to be sitting on stable coins for a year, waiting for them to do something or waiting for a market to correct, which is likely in the bear market, then at that point you want to put your money to work. At least stake it and get 20%. UST, USDC, and BUSD. BUSD. Yeah. Yep. But if you put your money into it and you lose all your money, it's not my fault.
No, just holding and shifting.
Yeah, I've completely left the banking system and moved to stablecoins. 100%. Yeah. Because why would I want somebody else holding my money when their regulations say that they can keep my money? Same thing. Canada was like, you're not allowed to move that much money. And I was like, they're like, you have to come back and prove your ID to us that you're not laundering money. I'm like, it came from customers. You can see it. It's coming from businesses. They're like, no, you got to come back to Canada. And I just moved it all out of the banks, put it into stable coins and holding it on different platforms and holding it with myself. And then whenever you need, you take a little bit, you convert it in Indonesia through my company, and I send it to a company account and then spend it on myself through the company.
Stablecoins are still exposed to inflation. Is there
Yeah. So, but that's why I denominate everything in XRP, because it's an asset, and I'm accruing assets, and I don't care if it bounces around, And my plan is to actually sell the XRP at some point too in this cycle. Once it is inflated, once it reaches a valuation where I'm like, okay, now it needs to correct. At that point, I'll go to dollars, let it correct, and come back to XRP, which will allow me to get more XRP. But my goal is to make the most amount of XRP, right? Ooh, watch the talk. Watch the talk from last week. Yeah, exactly. You don't want me to go down this rabbit hole? Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to be the base currency of the world. I think it's the asset designed to actually carry the value globally as a better functional base asset than the US dollar. And globally, it's being given the regulatory compliance and all the doorways necessary for it to do that. And for me, I'm convicted enough and I've done enough research on it that I feel like that's the case.
I just wondering, you told there is some very big people who hold on to it.
Yeah, mostly it's like institutions and banks and giant whales, and only 1% is held by retail, and that's by design. 1% is held by me alone. Yeah, no, we're just joking. Sorry. Yeah, no, only 1% is held by retail, and it's by design. It's by design. You're saying the same. You see, like in this regulatory world, if they are building assets which they need to run their new systems, they're going to make sure you do not go into those assets as much as possible. Right? When they need something, they're going to keep you away from it. They're going to be like, look at the dog coin. Look at the dog coin. Look at how much money dog coins are making. Go buy dog coins. We're giving them away at McDonald's. We're giving them away here. Like it's a distraction for you to go over here while they're like, this one's illegal. This one we're suing. This one's not allowed. While in the background, they're like, this is the one that works with this new banking system we're building. This is the one that builds the CBDCs for the central banks. This is the one that partners with all the banks. And this is the one that's made by the banksters and the powers that be to service the only use case that would fix the problem of inflating liquidity pools in the world. I'm not going to go too deep into that. Please watch the talk from last time, but in my approximation, that's the one that I want. Now, am I willing to hold it for 4 years? No problem. 10 years? I don't care. I'm not there to make money on it, even though it's going to make me hand over fist money. But I'm not there. My goal is to denominate my wealth in that and accrue it. You could do that with Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's use case is simpler. You understand, it's limited. It's the safe asset that's being used like the dollar. So, okay, denominate yourself in Bitcoin. Some people are denominating themselves in Ethereum. But what we're doing is we're no longer denominating ourselves in dollars. Dollars are simply a vehicle for us to exit the market and then enter back into the market so we can get more of the denominator, right? any price. Any price. It was $4 last time, $3.80 last time. Yeah, so now it's $1 something. So it's undervalued just from the calculation itself, right? So I buy it, I close my eyes and buy it whenever. I don't care. Yeah, that's it. Right. Thank you guys. Thank you for your time. Sorry we went a little long. Appreciate you guys. And we'll see you guys next time.